So say I've got a horse that's really touchy about having his ears. He's a little bit more this way. I might, before I put the bridle on, I might just make sure I can cover his eyes, because if I can go over this eye and over this eye, that simulates the bridle coming over. If I can go over this ear and over this ear, that simulates the bridle come over. And then I kind of like to hang this out here so I know what it's going to look like. I've got a little bit of a vulnerable moment right here because he's not tied, but you notice there's a circle all the way using my body, my rib cage, my armpit, my shoulder. He's like, well, I'm going to scratch on your circle. But see, I've got a circle which technically I kind of have him caught, but not very well, because if he was to take a step back and suck back, I'd be in trouble. So what I'm going to do is, when I take this off, I'm real quickly going to go right back here. Here he kind of wants to rub on me a little bit. So I just kind of lay my arm on there and make it uncomfortable for him to rub on me. So now I've kind of got him secured. Then I can continue to put my headstall on. The headstall is just this part of the bridle. The headstall, the bit, the curb chain, slobber straps, and the reins, the whole thing make up the bridle. And I try to guess where this groove is going to be pretty close to that groove right there. This groove is going to be close to this groove right here. So when I go on, I like to let my horse know I'm coming. I'll even pet him a couple of times if I'm being slow about it. My right hand comes between his ears. I'm going to guide this bit in to his mouth. I'm going to lift his lip with my index finger, touch his bars with my thumb, and I'm going to give him a chance here to kind of feel around. As he opens his mouth, I guide that in. Watch my right hand, right hand, right hand. Right ear, left ear. Now it's kind of long, so I'm going to hold it here for a second while I take the slack out of the cheek piece. And I like to get in the habit of reaching over here and saying that's right in that groove, because you can go around and look at it, but it's kind of good if you kind of learn how to do it automatically. But if you don't, come over here, make sure this is not pushing on this facial crest bone. You don't want this like this, because then it'll rub on that facial crest bone. Make sure this is right down in that groove, nice and comfortable. I like to, from the camera's point of view, look right in front. You can see if your snaffle bit's actually the same height. So right here we noticed when I put this on him that I made this side longer and the other side longer. The first thing I did when I put him on him, since both sides were too long, is I adjusted that near side over there. But now if we look at the bit from the front, we can actually see that this side's hanging a little bit lower than that side. I'll kind of move him around here so you can see. See how this side doesn't look the same, looking down at his nose, as that side? Does that make sense?
That is a little lower.
It is a little lower. So what I'm going to do is go back to the holes that I had this in, put it back to where it was, and then just for a moment, that should be pretty close. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to step in front of him, and I'm just going to go, yep, everything looks nice and tidy. Then I'll put the throat latch on. I don't make this too tight. Matter of fact, this is a little bit small for this horse. So I'm going to tip it over here. Normally I would have his head either straight or bent a little bit towards me, because I want his mind to be with me. But so everybody can kind of see it, I'm going to tip his nose away from me a little bit. Just tuck that in. This is really not his bridle. So you can see I really don't have a tremendous amount of slack underneath there. I have some, but I'd like to have more room than that myself. I can get like 3 fingers through there, and that's sufficient, but I'd like to have it maybe right about there. Just, this doesn't need to be tight, unless he's got a habit of raking it off and bucking me off. Now that I've got my bridle on, I can take my halter off. Take a guess when I get this halter put up where I'm going to put it. And not every, I mean, it's just a guess. It's just an educated guess.
Well, if you're not near your trailer, cinch it to the saddle. Oh, just hold it here.
My magic hanger that I take with me everywhere I go. You know, I put it right there. Now I got my 2 hands back. Yep, so man, I use these arms for hanging stuff all the time. But I wouldn't put a bunch of coils wrapped around up here if it was attached to a horse. I'm going to keep that in my hand and keep my hand open.
So then you will, before obviously riding, if you're close to the facility, you'll place that halter somewhere else.
Yes, I'll go hang it up somewhere nice and secure. And then putting my bridle on, I like to know that I can go over his offside eye, over his near side eye. I like to know that I can go over his offside ear, over his near side ear. And what I'll do is I'll get a little bit of hold of this side of his mouth right here. Then I've got a lot of slack here, and I can real quietly come up, go over his eye, over his ear, over his eye, over his ear. Kind of take some kinks out of this a little bit. And now I'm good to go. That's pretty much it. Okay, so I'm just gonna have you bridle him up now. It's real easy to watch somebody do it, but not near as easy when you actually kind of get in there and do it yourself. So I'm gonna kind of just mimic putting it on him, and then I'll have you do it. So I'm gonna take my reins, hang them on the best hanger I got, my left elbow. Then I'm gonna go ahead and spread my hand like this so that I can pull this up as I need to. You'll even see the bit kind of walks up his mouth a little bit if I do it like this. Left, right, I'm sorry, right, left, right, left, right, left. Doesn't matter to me which side you start with, just so long as it's not a static pull up in there. Then to cradle this thing, what I like to do is push my fingers apart so that I can kind of cradle that bit open so it's not folded shut on him. It doesn't matter if it's this bit, it can be, you know, a number of different bits. The bit's not the part. So you can do 2 fingers on this side, or you can do 1 finger on this side, just kind of whatever is comfortable. The main thing is you kind of hold it open and you keep your index finger for the horse's mouth. So go ahead and hang that on your hanger, and then go ahead and take your right hand there. That's the part that's going to put it up over the horse's poll. This is actually going to come right down his neck. That looks good. And just mimic raising it and walking it at the same time. Good. And now let's go ahead and cradle it with your left hand. Good. So that keeps it nice and wide. And now we're going to approach the horse's mouth. This is going to come over his head. This is going to lay right over his forelock. This little piece of hair right here. Yeah. You can even let your fingers drape a little bit. As his head comes in here, your hand's going to droop, and it's going to let this thing hang too low. So it's going to be hanging down about here because it's going to be drooping the brow band, this part right here. The brow band's going to be droopy way down here. So then what you're going to do is cradle this hand, take this index finger, and say, will you lift your lip, please? So if you can just take this and real subtly just cut that in half and just say, will you lift your lip, please? And as he lifts the lip, and you can change the angle of that hand so that the index finger pushes his lip open. As he pushes his lip open, the left thumb comes and touches him on the left bar, and this finger can come and touch him on the right bar. That's this little section of jawbone right here where there's no teeth. You want to show us? Right there. It's kind of hard to see. I'm not going to monkey with him too much, but it's going to look something like this. You're going to come up, ask him to raise his tooth, then you're going to touch him there, and his mouth opens. Now here's the key. You can't loiter because he's only going to give you a little bit of time. What you want to do is just pull one side in the teeth. And as you go like this, that's one side, then he's going to say, oh, you'd like to do the bit. And then you do the other side, then the other side, then the other side, then the other side. Always kind of listening to your horse, and if your horse is going, you're probably going too fast. And if your horse is like, you may be going too slow. So kind of listen to your horse. And then once you've got it on there, then you come over the right ear first, left ear second, snug it up, walk around in front of him, check it, and I'll walk you through all this. So now you can just lay all that on your left arm because you're going to have your horse in your right arm. Then you'll put all that on your right shoulder, and I'm just going to switch places with you. And this is not for speed. He's watching those other horses up there on the hillside, but that doesn't matter to us. So first we take the halter off, and then we buckle it around his neck, just like this morning. So we talked about it up there a little bit this morning. So you can leave that on and just untie this knot right here. Just leave this. This stays. This will stay on for the rest of the day. So let's just push this forward. Oh, I switched halters on you, didn't I? Yeah. So just there's no buckle. There's only one knot. So we just push this forward. This is good because the other day when we did halters, we did traditional halters. Now we're doing a rope halter. So I'm going to walk him through the process. So let it drop forward. Remember how we did the circle around his neck with your right arm? Good. And your armpit. Good. Now bring it back, go over his neck. And here's a proper way to tie this. This is a sheep bend knot. So push this through here. Go ahead and take the slack out of it, which means pull, 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 pull. Good. Now kind of get this knot a little bit more forward so you can see it. And all of this knot will take place. Drop this finger a little bit. Drop this finger a little bit. All of this knot's going to take place in here. So what you're going to do is you're going to come back and you're going to form the letter P. Can you see the letter P right there? Then you're going to take the tail in. First we'll get his hair out of the way. Then we'll push this back through there underneath itself. And the key is that this is not pointing towards his eye when you're done. Does that make sense? Okay. And when you tie any knot, you don't want to leave your fingers in the middle of a knot. Good. 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 Try not to push your fingers through the knot though. Good. Good. And then slide this down a little bit and that locks it. Just pull down on this little crown piece. Good. That's good enough. That'll come with muscle memory. Okay, now you got your horse. Now let's take the headstall part of your bridle. Lay your right hand right up over his ears. Good. And now you want to just go ahead and get that over his nose so that by having a cheek piece on either side of his nose, he's going to kind of stay there with you. Lift his lip. Touch his teeth. Don't bump him, but just touch him with the bit. So you got to use your thumb to kind of hold it up. Good. Ask him to open his mouth. Don't demand it. Ask. Now, lift with the right hand. Now is your moment. You got to take your hand out of the way, though. Good. And then the left hand. Now, right here, this is a very common mistake. This curb strap right here is hanging. But see, as soon as we got the curb strap out of the way, now this hand's responsible for lifting the bit. It's in there. Now, right here. Good. Just slide it all the way back. Good. Just keep going towards this. No. So what you're trying to do is push his ear through, and that's okay. But if you just do this,
oh, okay,
it's on. Now go left. Good. Yeah. Okay. Now,
I was concerned of how hard I could pull over his ear,
and he'll tell you. He'll kind of bite you if you do it too hard. So.
Oh.
So now just kind of reach underneath here. Get your throat latch. That's that little buckle that's hanging down over there. Be real aware that these things are never so low that a horse can step through them. And just put it in the very last hole. Right there. Good. Put your tab in. Then you can take your halter off. And then like I say, this is not a speed drill. You just kind of want to learn to do it properly. And then once you learn to do it properly, speed comes later, but don't worry about speed. Take your time. Just push that back out. Good. Now, I'll take the halter from you. Normally, you would just go hang this up or something, but so you don't have too many ropes flopping around, I'll just kind of try to be a good friend to you here and have one less thing to worry about. Okay, now let's straighten his hair up. But here's what can happen. See all this slack you got here? He can turn and be halfway to Maui without you being able to control him. So this is the rein you really need to be in control of right here. So let's not pull on any of these others. Let's take this one and let's be cognizant of being in control of that near side part of his mouth. Yeah? So I'm going to straighten these out because we've kind of got this wrapped over itself, and that kind of stuff always makes me nervous. And when I get nervous, then I start doing things that are kind of unnatural. So let's just relax everything for a second. I'm going to straighten these out so I know where everything is. Now I know where everything is. Now you can lay that over your arm. You can lay that over your arm. Not too tight though. You can just lay it over your elbow. Elbow's a great hanger. You don't need it so much. Just let it hang. Let it hang. We'll adjust it once we get everything hanging in order. Good. Now all you really need is this rein right here in your left hand. Good. Good. Now we want to straighten his hair. Now, do you see his nose going to the right there, Bill? Give him a little pull. And then release. Now give him another little pull. Now shorten your hand on the lead rope. On the dry. Good. Okay, now just rather than pulling the hair, just slide your hand underneath there and go with it. Give him a little tug with the left rein. So slide your hand like I'm going to do this. I'm going to come under you and I'm going to straighten your shirt out. There you go. Now let's do the same thing going forward with his little foretop. And you can actually come up here. See, he's got hair right here that's underneath there. And it can stay on the outside. There you go, good. Now notice his nose is drifting off to the left, to the right. So go ahead and take a step back. This gives him somewhere to put his head. Good, that looks good. Now let's walk to the other side. Just keep all this stuff here. Walk to the other side. Make sure this little crease right here is right between that bone and his skull. This part of the brow band, is it? Okay, good. Then you can look at your bit. Maybe step to your left a little bit. Look at the bit from above and make sure it's the same height on both sides. And here's the best way to adjust that is take a hold.
This looks like it's a little low on the right.
Okay, but we're pulling on this.
Oh.
So we don't want to overanalyze it. Just look and then come back and then I'll look at it. So have a look, come back, and then I'll step up there and look at it. Okay, that's good. Let's take a step back over here. I'm going to look at it, and here's how I'm going to fix it. This one is 1/4 inch lower. So what I'm going to do is take both cheek pieces. Perfect. But see how I did this? So I just want you to come mimic that maneuver. Just kind of adjust it real quick, don't loiter. And everything's perfect, then come back to the near side of your horse. Okay, good. Now, since you've kept these reins organized all this time, you know the difference between your get down line and your rein. So now let's take the reins out. Release.
Check this one more time.
You can check as many times as you want to. We just don't ever want to be guilty of loitering with a horse. So we want to be efficient, but we don't want to be in a hurry. But we don't want to loiter, because loitering will get us in as much trouble as doing something too quick. So now we got our reins and we know how they're going to go on, right? This one's going to go on the right, this one's going to go on the left. So take this hand and you're going to drape it over his right ear. And then the left one comes over the left ear. You go all the way back to the horn. Good. And now we've got a twist in this, so push this up through there. Take it off your elbow. Good. Putting on halters, putting on bridles. There's a number of different ways to do it, depending on if you're a short person, tall horse, tall person, short horse. But you kind of need to know the principles. There are basic principles that you'd like to kind of go along when you're putting on halters and putting on bridles. For instance, I kind of like to do the offside ear and then the near side ear. I like to be able to feel with my hands that brow band's kind of laying down in that natural little old groove. It's not up on their ear and it's also not down over their eye. Those are real basic principles. Having their hair laid down the right way, you know, when you kind of get it on there. Those are basic principles, and you don't want to push it up in their mouth and scare them. You know, just understanding those basic principles of how to be safe, how to kind of read the horse's body language while you're doing that, and being a real gentleman about putting the bridle on, taking the bridle off, putting the halter on, taking the halter off. Kind of get something that your horse kind of understands, and just be real kind of fluid with your hands going on, and kind of help them open their mouth and just kind of guide that bit in there and just work on those principles. But then you can kind of change it to modify your own preferences.